What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Soulblaze, and as always, we're back. Draft League content is back on the channel. It's summer is ahead of us, and we have lots of cool content in store. But before we get into that goodness, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, support your boy, do all that good stuff. Today, we're gonna be talking about my run in the Smogon Sword and Shield Cup, the first Sword and Shield Cup of the Smogon Draft Tournament, which would be the biggest tournament series for Draft League at this point in time. And without any further ado, let's get into it and show you my run. The first thing I want to show you guys is my draft. Okay, so listen up. Let's blow this boy up right here. Window too small. Yes, that's fine. Looky. I blew it up a little bit too much. Yeah. So as you can see here, this is my draft. It says Soulblaze right here. So I got Zamazenta crowned. I've played in Gen 8 draft leagues before, and I've played versus Zamazenta crowned, and I just knew that this thing has 128 speed, one of the best defenses in the game, really good dual typing, lots of good moves in Behemoth Bash, which is like a stronger Iron Head without flinching chance, of course, close combat, and then just a lot of physical offense with like crunch and fang moves and stuff like that, and you can howl to raise your attack. It's really strong, and I've never used it before, and I picked that over stuff like Speed Boost Blaziken, just because I know when you use Speed Boost Blaziken, you take a lot of recoil damage, and you have to kind of protect to get your speed boost, which is a little bit predictable. People can sub against you, raise their own speed on that turn and stuff like that, and I didn't want to get outplayed by that. So I really want to take out Zamazenta Crown for a spin. So we picked that, and obviously when I picked Latios with it, it was more so that it has Levitate for ground, and it resists fire and stuff like that. Latios has just always been a solid pick, and you can pick it with a lot of the Tapus as well, and it works really well. Of course, I really wanted Coco on my squad, but it wasn't around by the time that I got to pick. But I picked a lot of other cool stuff. As you can see, we had the REGIELEKI, and in this run, REGIELEKI is gonna be showing off a lot of cool stuff. You might think REGIELEKI is very one-dimensional, and to one degree it is. It forces a very heavy game plan around this team, which I will be talking a lot about as we look through the replays and the builds for the teams and stuff like that. But yeah, we do have REGIELEKI, which, you know, if you don't know what REGIELEKI does, it basically is the fastest electric type in the game, fastest Pokemon base stat wise in the game. And as such, it nukes everything that's not resistant to electric or immune to electric, but more so immune, because even resists are often to hit KO'd by Specs or Life Orb versions of this thing, because it only really carries like Thunderbolt electric type attacks, because it doesn't really have that wide of a move pool, so it really only hits for electric. But since its ability boosts that electric type attack by 1.5, 50%, you basically nuke everything with electric type, and then you create sort of this game plan to remove ground types, and then allow your REGIELEKI to take it home from there. So the game plan is, if your opponent has a ground type, that's the one you got to remove. And then if you get to remove it, REGIELEKI kind of becomes a Pokemon. If not, then whenever REGIELEKI is out, their ground type is going to come out as an answer every time. So I have a kind of like a little bit for that. I have Mamoswine as an ice type. I have like Tangrowth and some move versions of Latios. Can also help nuke some ground types. And then Zamazenta Crowd, although being weak to ground, it's very fast and it can hit very hard. So I do believe we have the things that we need for getting rid of those ground types. Unfortunately, my team does not really do that well with like the hazard game and removal and stuff. That's why Natu is there for magic bounce, but we kind of get demolished by toxic spikes a little bit if the terrain is not up, and the misty terrain that blocks status, that is. And we kind of like, our only really good removal is either Defog on Feeny, which takes away our own terrain, or it's a Rapid Spin on REGIELEKI, which that's fine. REGIELEKI can Rapid Spin at any point, and it can kind of like take a turn to when the grab type comes in. You can spin away the hazards, but outside of that, it's really what we have to work with here. So let's get into the first matchup. The first matchup was in my pool game. I was put in pools like everyone else, and I have to play 3 people. And I believe the 2 best people with the best records get out of pools. I think that's how it works. So I played this match versus Marufabasi. Sorry if I'm slaughtering that name. I don't really know how to pronounce that. But as you can see from the game plan perspective here, no ground type on the opposing team, which makes it Regieleki becomes kind of like a Pokemon off the bat. Now, the team that I'm playing versus here, it doesn't really have the best speed tiers. As you can see, it's either really slow in terms of like Melmetal, Toxapex, Chansey, or it's like Rillaboom, which is fast just because of Grassy Glide, or it has like very mid speed because of like Zapdos, Galar, Darmanitan, thank you. So it doesn't really have that good speed bridge. It's very either it's fast or it's not. So what I did with my team here is I just said I'm just gonna, you know, I get to run Adamant on my Zamazenta Crown and still outspeed max speed Zapdos. I run Iron Defense because, as you can see, a lot of the mons here are physical. You have Melmetal, obviously not Zapdos, Rillaboom, and then Darmanitan Galar with Gorilla Tactics. Hits very hard on the physical side. So I was thinking, with our Dauntless Shield and possibly an Iron Defense, we don't have recovery here, but the defense we're going to get on this thing is going to be insane. And obviously I just put the rest into survivability. Max out that attack stat for all it's worth. And as you can see from my Rindo Berry to tank a Grassy Glide hit and return with hopefully don't miss this Ice Crash kind of scenario here, and I also have Ice Shard for priority. But I just think like my fast mons are going to be built to outspeed and then put the rest into tank, and then the mons that can't really compete with the speed that I need, they just build bulky, and we just go max attack and we just tank a hit and we try to return kill. That's kind of like the way that I do here. But the reason I have knockoff here and knockoff here is because of this Pokemon right here, this Chansey. This Chansey can be very hard to deal with for Regieleki because it's so incredibly defensive on the special side. But if you remove its Eviolite due to the means of knockoff, or you can also use Trick with Latios and stuff like that, as you can see with Choice Scarf Trick, if I can trick away its item basically, then it becomes very dealable. So that's kind of the end game goal here, is to kind of get rid of that Chansey's item and then pivot around Regieleki and get that going. So let's see how this goes here. I'm kind of watching this for the first time ever since I battled, so I can't really remember my strategy for everything, but I do remember that Regieleki was kind of free to play here. Just outside of Rillaboom, Grassy Glide, and getting past Chansey item. Yeah, so that's kind of what I saw when I lead into this Rillaboom. No, Melmetal here. It could be Rillaboom as well. I don't really care. If I lead into a physical attacker, I can tank any one hit and I'm faster, so I can just set up an Iron Defense and I resist Grassy Glide, so it doesn't really matter. I get that the defense, of course, Body Press with this would have been insane. We don't get that in this gen. But either so, I just have a lot of defense. But this Zapdos comes in and threatens me on the special side, and I think, okay, either it's going to Thunderbolt or it's going to Heat Wave. I have Thick Fat on my Mammo, and I am immune to Electric because, you know, we already know how that goes. So I just think that's a free swap, and I have a bulky Mammo, and I don't really need it that much for maybe trying to get that knockoff on Chansey and Earthquaking stuff. Like I can afford to tank like a Heat Wave as long as it doesn't burn me. I think I'm fine. Misses the Heat Wave, works out perfectly for me. That means I can kind of get be free to. I could also go for a knockoff here, expecting the Chansey, but I felt like if they was just staying in, it would be free damage to anyone anyway. Just go for an Icicle Crash there. I switched to my Tangrowth, which is like pretty physically defensive with Rocky Helmet, which also helps against the physical offense that they have, because a lot of it is going to be contact, and that's going to proc Rocky Helmet and deal damage to them back. So as you can see, double Iron Bash. That's 2 procs of Rocky Helmet, baby. And it crits me on the second one, which sucks, but this thing has Regenerator, so when it swaps out, it gains back HP. So I can just keep on doing this and kind of have this as an answer to the physically defensive type. And it also runs back to the lead scenario. Whenever a physical attacker is out, I can kind of go to Rose Quartz, Steven Universe nickname. I can kind of go into Zamazenta Crown here and just set up Iron Defense for free. Because what are they going to do? Swap out into Zapdos and give me Mamoswine, and then maybe hit a Heat Wave, and then I can remove items, or I can just go for Icicle Crash. This is kind of it turns out in my favor, and I could just swap here as well. Pretty much predicting the Earthquake this time around. But the main point is this can also always come in on physical attackers as well. Hard swaps into Darmanitan Galar on my Sleep Powder. because this I have no Feeny with me this time around, which means that I'm kind of free to run Sleep Powder. Of course, it does take away my ability to run Assault Vest, but I don't really need Assault Vest in this matchup. Zapdos might Hurricane me. I don't really have the best Hurricane switches, as you can see, but that doesn't really matter to me. Yeah, so as you can see, Zapdos comes in because I figured he was not going to stay in with the Sleep Darmanitan, so I just swapped into whatever. Looking back, I really regret running Rockhead on this. I really should have ran Lightning Rod for the Zapdos, but it is what it is. I already have an electric immunity in my Bismuth Mamoswine here. Goes into Toxapex, and there I go for the knockoff, expecting the Chansey. Remove that Rocky Helmet that just proc, which is very good for me over time. I go into Latios on expecting either like a Toxic or a Baneful Bunker or something, maybe even a knockoff. I didn't really expect them to maybe stay in versus the potential of Earthquake 2, so I maybe thought they were going to double. So I just went into Latios here, just, you know, hopefully, if I get Toxic, it is what it is, but I can also threaten it out with Psychic moves. I expected it to go Chansey here, I think. So I went for the trick, trying to catch Chansey. But this kind of works too, because now I can choose moves, and I can also trick Chansey the Life Orb. It doesn't really matter as long as we get away the Eviolite. So yeah, Garnet comes in here. This is a full health, max physical defense Rillaboom. And I know it's Choice Scarf locked, so either it U-turns on me, takes Rocky Helmet, or it can like Grassy Glide and sit there, and I gain HP due to the Grassy Terrain too. Knocks off the Rocky Helmet, which is fine by me. I mean, I kind of got some decent damage with it, and I can just kind of sit here and just knock off the Scarf that I gave it, or knock off anything else, and Toxapex comes in, understandably so, to try and get rid of me, and I just have to let something get Toxic. And there is the Toxic Spikes that my team doesn't really deal with. Maybe I should have brought Natu, maybe not. Hindsight is kind of 2020, but I can also set up some stuff here. I don't really need Marowak for anything too much else. Like, this is where I make a horrible play. I have Poltergeist on this thing. That should have been Shadow Bone, but I Poltergeist forgetting that I took off its item. So I kind of waste the turn here, letting up set up another layer of Toxic Spikes. I go Latios not to get proc, and thinking Scald can't really burn me. And I also figure this doesn't have Toxic and Scald, so I go for a Psyshock, which does decent damage to this thing just because it hits on the physical side. And this is why my opponent makes the game losing play by staying in as Chansey versus something that can remove its item. And I'll happily take that Eviolite, and you may wish past the Melmetal as much as you want. I can just go for an Aura Sphere on the switch and it gains HP back, and we're kind of not winning that play, but since the Chansey doesn't have an item, that's a win for me in my book. Regieleki kind of looks free here. Zapdos doesn't resist electric, like his only electric resist is Rillaboom, which has a Choice Scarf trick onto it, so I can kind of freely predict that Grassy Glide. So that's all that really remains for Regieleki to get past. Chansey is low enough and has Life Orb too now. So I just need to get past this Rillaboom, and Regieleki looks pretty free. So he goes out into Zapdos. I kind of just close combat, ripping it, hoping it to stay in. I don't really have that much else to head Zapdos with, and I should predict it to come in every time on me, but you know, I can't really. I have limited switches too, just because of Toxic Spikes. So yeah, so this is where I trick the Melmetal, give it an Eviolite, and I gave myself an Assault Vest, which is pretty good. I died to Double Iron Bash, which is okay, because I can kind of just trying to get Regieleki in, and if your only answer to Regieleki's Rillaboom, when that goes down, I kind of just win. So if this comes in on like a Thunderbolt or a Volt Switch, I can also Volt Switch to gain momentum there, because this is Specs, so it's going to do a lot of damage either way with just Volt Switch. Go back into Zamazenta to try and gain a little bit HP back, and that's like my only thing that doesn't proc the Toxic Spikes. So I go for Psychic Fangs here. I can kind of try and chip this thing down, or let something go to try and get it down. On the Roost, I can also just go into something that can pressure it with damage. Goes out into Toxapex, understandably enough, on the Flare Blitz. I just kind of have to sack off something, hopefully, to get Regieleki in, because I know next time Regieleki comes in, I can just Thunderbolt and kill everything on the team. So I'm kind of just pivoting around, not trying to lose too many answers to Toxic Spikes, and just figuring out what I'm going to sack to the Regieleki. At this point, I feel like I can hard switch in, because I've seen enough Zapdos swaps into Zamazenta at this point to know that it's gonna come, and I can just come in here and I can just Thunderbolt away, and whatever it does, it can't Toxic Stall me, no matter how many Baneful Bunkers you have. It doesn't matter. You switch out into Rillaboom, which I think is not a good play, because you need Grassy Glide for this, and that goes down, and nothing resists Electric anymore. And I can just kind of swap to reset the Toxic. I can kill everything else with whatever I have left. I can just manually overpower him just because Darmanitan is asleep. I miss that, but it doesn't really matter. Flare Blitz, I live because of Thick Fat. You take the recoil. I hit the high horsepower this time. I go down. Regieleki comes in. Doesn't matter if you Baneful Bunker. I just Thunderbolt everything that's left, and that's the battle. So it doesn't matter if I do things slow this battle. It doesn't matter if I don't make the correct play every time. It doesn't matter. I can afford to click like Psychic Fangs into Zapdos switches. I don't have to play that aggressively to win. Of course, it would speed up the battle, but the most important thing is that the game plan is executed. Rillaboom is out, Chansey's item is gone, and there's no way for them to win the battle unless I choke it incredibly hard for some reason. As long as I get Regieleki in a modest amount of time, I win this battle every time. So that's that battle. My next opponent is down by 6, which I do believe is a name in the community that has been that's more recognized. I do recognize them from somewhere else. I can't really tell. They also have his Zamazenta crowned, which is why I run max speed 90 attack, because I don't want to lose that duel. I kind of want to just it pretty much comes down to speed tile and who gets the close combat first, because it's going to drop the defenses for the opposing close combat to hit harder. So I kind of just want to be in that battle. I could have ran bulky too, but I do believe they have some other threats that I really want to look out for. And the thing here is that this Volcarona is incredibly scary for my team. 1 or 2 Quiver Dances and it's game over for me. So I have red card Tapu Fini to tank a hit. I can run physical defensive for the rest, or not the rest, but for other stuff like Zamazenta, because I'm not weak to steel and I resist fighting and stuff like that. And I can try and get a Skull Burn, which of course, as we know, the best way to try and get rid of it is to burn it. I can also burn Piloswine and stuff like that. And if I get enough Calm Minds, I can Draining Kiss as recovery for not having leftovers, and just defog, because I don't really need anything else to hit everything for at least neutral. Looking at it now, Quillfish kind of just destroys this set, but that's fine. As long as I get a burn, that's kind of all I want to. But the most important thing is this red card to get this Volcarona out from Quiver Dancing on my face. I think that's the most important part. I don't think this set is kind of like the best I've ever brought. Looking back at it now, this set doesn't really work, but red card is at least the right item. I don't really know what else I should have brought here. Scald also seems like the right move, but I don't know about these 2 moves right here. But anyways, the whole point here is that Marowak Alola is just trying to break something. It should be faster than the Slowking and can break it with like Shadow Bone. And even though I probably should have brought like Knockoff for the Piloswine here, looking back at it, but I did figure like if I get some flame charges up, I can really start to do some damage on this team. The reason I have Break and not Knockoff is to be able to hit Hydreigon for super effective, and I can also remove screens if it's like Slowking screens and stuff like that. But yeah, I have Weakness Policy Latios, which is kind of a little bit optimistic, hoping that if I have a Calm Mind up, if I live a Bug Buzz, I can kind of just try and do some massive damage with Dragon Pulse. Again, maybe I should have had Knockoff here, but I'm way too scared of the Volcarona, so I have Roar instead. And Assault Vest Regieleki to just try and live a Volcarona hit, a Hydreigon hit, a Slowking hit, stuff like that. Because I don't really need it to have extra damage. It outspeeds just fine. and it just does damage just fine if I can remove the Piloswine. But I kind of regret not bringing knockoff and a couple of sets that should have been a little different here. So let's take a look at how this battle goes. From the way I talk about it, you can pretty much already tell how it's going to go. Now, the reason I have Scarf, I don't even have Scarf. You see, that would have also been really nice to have Scarf versus the Hydreigon here, because this Hydreigon is Scarf, and that's kind of what I want. This knowledge. I stay in on this turn, just wanting to know if it's Scarf, because if I know this is Scarf, I can easily deal with it. Why am I howling here? Why am I howling here? I should have just close combated, bro. Why am I howling here? Why? Maybe I was thinking they would be afraid of close combat and swapping out even. I didn't expect them. I think I didn't expect them to sack their Scarf Hydreigon turn 1 to a close combat. That's what I think it was. I was just like, there's no way. They're probably going to U-turn expecting me to switch. So I just howl, and I'm in a better position if he goes on Mazenta or something like that. Or I can at least put on some pressure with, like, I also had Facade in case of Flame Body. This, holy shit. I cannot believe I made that play. Well, so the game is pretty much over, but I know it's locked into Fire Blast, so it misses one. And now I kind of get a little bit of momentum back. I try to go for some Calm Mind, hoping this is Ice Beam. And I don't even stay in because I don't really have anything to hit Slowking with. No, do I? I have Dragon Pulse. Nice, dude. I am paralyzed here, which activates my Facade, which so that's kind of nice. But, you know, Quillfish comes in and I get fully paralyzed, so I kind of have to swap. I go Regieleki because I want to Rapid Spin these spikes away, which, you know, Piloswine comes in every time, but at least we get a little bit of chip on it and we remove the thing. I can kind of go here expecting it to just sack it at this point, I guess. And we kind of, I get my Facade through this time, which is good, but they still have rocks up, which is not good against, which is good against my team. And here comes the spikes too, and I just want to try and remove this Quillfish, and I'm really like hoping I can do that. So once this comes in, I have to. Why am I howling? Like, I'm doing so many bad plays this match. Oh my god, this is not pretty to look at. Okay. No. So we just go Feeny, eh? I can't, what am I thinking this battle? I can't reason with the logic. I'm making so many weird plays. Like, why am I doing this? Yeah, so that's red card on Defog, and now I get the Volcarona in and I have no red card. Like, there's no way I win this battle. Like, look at how I'm playing. This is a good lesson to show you, though, that you don't always play perfect. Quillfish with the Intimidate too. It's just, even if I get Flame Charges now, I'm minus attack, and that's gonna severely affect how I do things. Crit Aqua Jet doesn't help either. Now I'm low, minus attack. This Mon is a waste. A Dragon comes in. My luck this battle isn't very great. Well, my skill in this battle isn't very great either, so that's fine. But I did, yeah. I did get full parried once, but he missed a Fire Blast. So I don't really think I have that many things to complain about. But the crit Aqua Jet sucked, though. It really did, because how are you faster? Oh, because you're Scarf, so you should be faster. So it doesn't really matter then. It doesn't really matter. But now I can just let this go because it's a waste. Zamazenta, I think I can live. You were gonna miss Fire Blast and you don't want to lock Fire Blast. Of course I get parried again, so I can't crunch. I crunched this time. That would have been nice to have the first time. That's a little bit unlucky. Future Sight is also a very good play for I'm not gonna stay in that much longer if he goes on Mazenta. Yeah. So Facade is gonna do nothing because I think that kills the Slowking at that point. So I think that was a play I could do. It howls versus me. I just have to try and get it out with close combat. I get some value for it, but yeah. Piloswine just comes in every time, and I don't know. I'm kind of just like desperate at this point. Yeah, this battle is just over. Calm Mind doesn't work. Even if Quillfish is gone, like, this set could have potentially worked now, but I don't get enough stuff to do it with either. Yeah, I try an Aura Sphere here. I do a semi decent job of trying to remove the Piloswine here. But once I go Mamoswine after this is dead, it can just spare Piloswine, and Mamoswine has to face all this other stuff, and that's just going to be too much. So definitely not the best. That's another crit, doesn't matter, I think. That's yeah, Piloswine just comes out, and even though I get Ancient Power, I don't get the boost. Ancient Power was for Volcarona. I played horrible this battle. I deserve to lose by a long shot. So, not really my proudest battle, but that's okay. You know, we don't win them all. And at least it shows the game's integrity that you should lose the battle you play. If you play bad, you should lose, you know? So I lost that one. The next battle is versus Silverio, which is another matchup versus no ground type. And I was like, as a Regieleki player, this I like this. We like this a lot, you know? So let's take a look at what my team was for that one. So I kind of brought almost the same variant of the Zamazenta from the first. I kind of have the moveset from the second battle and the spread from the first, it seems like. Obviously this is to outspeed Garchomp and still be adamant. I don't have Ice Fang for some reason. I don't know really remember the rest of the matchup here. But from these 6, it seemed like Ice Fang would have been nice. I don't really know about Howl. I don't think I've been using Howl great. But I know Regieleki. Regieleki is the super awesome mon here that I can just do a lot of damage with since no ground type is shown. And I have Scarf max speed with Electro Ball because in some instances versus very slow Pokemon like Aromatisse, for example, it does more damage than Thunderbolt. So it's kind of like a nice option to deal for. I do maybe also think they had some other slow things on their draft, which Electro Ball outperforms Thunderbolt in. And if that's all Regieleki has to worry about, I can kind of afford to do that. Trick Room would suck, but you know, outside of that, we should be fine. Yeah, so I have a Light Screen Feeny with 3 attacks leftovers. That should be fine here. We have Scald and Scald for the Oven and Jirachi potentially. We have Moonblast and Ice Beam for the Galarian Zapdos and the Garchomp respectively. And we can just put on a lot of damage even though we don't have the investment. We're kind of physically bulky with Light Screen. It's kind of just we need the Misty Surge for the Paraflinch to try and avoid some of the Paraflinch for Jirachi and stuff. Now I don't have a normal type on this team, so it's kind of hard for me to deal with Spectre in a good way. So I kind of have to. I have Assault Vest here with Ice Shard to outspeed and do damage and live. I can live a Shadow Ball at like +1 and knock off and knock off into Ice Shard or just knock off depending on the variant. So I think that's a good brain here that I have. It also has Thick Fat, so I can kind of like maybe potentially live an Overheat. I don't know. Maybe like non-invested Overheat, maybe. Yeah, and so we just have Calm Mind, Latios, which if it gets Calm Minds up, then it's going to tank a Spectre, Shadow Ball, and kill with Shadow Ball in return, which also does good against Jirachi. And we have Dragon Pulse for the Garchomp, and then we have Sleep Powder to sleep something outside of terrain, and we can use Knockoff to remove Scarf Jirachi and stuff like that, and EQ to pressure it. We have Giga Drain for HP, which also hits Garchomp for neutral and stuff like that. So Yache Berry is obviously for something that's not shown here. So that's interesting. I don't really remember what that's for, but I'm sure it was for something respective, but it's not for something that showed up. So yeah, that's the very basic team I have for this battle. I just know I have a lot of answers for Spectre, and that's all I really need to know. Kind of good lead in the sense that I can just get off a free Scald. Kind of bad in the sense that they could Volt Switch. They could go Aromatisse for free. I can set up a Light Screen in case it's like Calm Mind or something. Or just in case they go hard Spectre off the bat too. It's kind of nice to just set up a Light Screen. I go into Zamazenta Crown. Obviously, I want to pressure them with Behemoth Bash or set up a Howl. They go Reflect, and by the time they go into Rotom Heat, I set up a Howl because I know I have Light Screen. I can live in Overheat. I also go Howl again because the terrain is up, so I'm also protected from Will-O-Wisp, which is really good in this scenario for me. So they can Overheat if they want to. You see that does nothing, so I can just kind of sit here and be +2 attack and kind of just do damage. But the Reflect is kind of mitigating half of the damage from the setup too. But they can kind of just like pivot back and forth, and then everything goes out. And I'd live a Thunderous Kick here, which would be disastrous. So they just U-turn, but I get free damage from this. Yeah, Behemoth Batch is a free 12%. Reflect wears off here though, and at this point Zamazenta is activated and can just kind of just run a little bit, because that's all I'm waiting for at this point. I'm waiting for the Reflect to wear off, and I can kind of live pretty much anything as long as it's not Overheat, right? But they can't come in for free and Overheat, so I just close combat and we get rid of them on. And Spectre comes in because now I'm minus special defense, and obviously I think I live a Shadow Ball here if it's not Specs. If it's not Specs, I think I live a Shadow Ball. So that's interesting. So that Shadow Ball killing kind of tells me that it's Specs, and now it's locked in. So I go Mamoswine. I can live a Specs +1. Barely. And we knock off in return. And there's the Specs. Yes. As you can see. So Zapdos comes out, threatens me. I don't want to Ice Shard yet. I still have answers for this. Kind of. I can sack my Pearl here. That's fine. A couple Brave Birds, a little recoil right there. Very nice. We go Tangrowth. Jirachi. I Sleep Powder because it's Zapdos, thinking that if it Brave Birds me, I get it, put it to sleep. If not, I get it to switch out. I kind of just want it to switch out. And now I knock off for the rocks. I know it's Shuckle Berry, so I can kind of Earthquake for free now. Fire Punch, Iron Head is going to flinch me pretty much to death, and then it's going to U-turn at the last second. I Sleep Powder and I miss, unfortunately. That hitting would have been really nice, but I hit this instead since I'm faster, so, you know, swag. Again, regen, so I don't have to sack it yet. Leftovers comes in. I Shadow Ball this. It kills because I know it's no Assault Vest. Scarf U-turn into Sleeping Aromatisse on the Dragon Pulse. Very good play. And here I can kind of just roost up, get my HP back, kind of set up Calm Minds. And as long as it doesn't crit me on Shadow Ball, I'm not afraid of this. And then I roost, and then I Dragon Pulse, I think. Yeah, because I can't afford it to do anything else. And I can just sit here and Calm Mind and just do Shadow Ball and roost and Calm Mind and roost and Shadow Ball and Calm Mind and roost. It gets a lot of drops on me, but I know as long as that was the thing too, I know I live a Brave Bird if I'm like above 76%. So that's really nice. So we kill that with Dragon Pulse, and then of course this is revealed to be Haban Berry. So it's really nice that I set up that much, but that's kind of like, it's Latios that takes this despite there being no ground type. I could have played my Regieleki better, you know, put it more onto the field, but I was pretty secure about this battle as long as I have it in the back. Because it always outspeeds everything and just does a lot of damage. So that is that battle. Next we move on to the playoffs, or not playoffs, the bracket. It's hard to say playoffs because it's not playoffs at all. It's bracket. We move on from pools with a 2-1 record, and we play our first round versus Crimfinity, which this battle is very explosive. This is Havlucha with Misty Seed setup guaranteed because both of the sides have Tapu Fini. And it's a Landorus, that's the ground type that I have to get past. So it's kind of like, in order for Regieleki to be a Pokemon, I have to get rid of the best Pokemon in the game. So that's a little anxious. And I have to bring some knockoff stuff again because I learned from the Piloswine game that if I don't bring some knockoffs, then I kind of lose to Eviolite Mons being too tanky. So I brought some knockoffs this time. I also have Scarf Trick again to get rid of its item. But Scarf Latios is also really good here because it outspeeds Scarf Hydreigon and Scarf Landorus. So that's kind of nice. So let's see how this battle turns out. Just trying to see. You have Ice Fang for Landorus there. Choice Scarf REGIELEKI outspeeds Earn Burden of Lucha by 1 point and can still run Modest. So that's pretty cool. So Choice Scarf REGIELEKI coming in here for the second time. Also has Electro Ball for the slower things like, you know, the BEM and stuff like that. So very nice, very nice. Just 3 attacks, and I have Heavy Duty Boots for things like hazards, and I have Focus Blast knockoff for the Porygon, and I have Sleep Powder as when terrain goes out. So yeah, let's see how this battle played out. Leads Tapu Fini. I lead Mamoswine. I feel like Mamoswine is a good lead into the Landorus because I have Oblivious, not Thick Fat this time, to ignore the Intimidate. So I go hard in here knowing it can't Skull Burn me. It does a lot of damage though, so I see that it's invested, but I don't want to stay in on this to tank a hit. But it gains Dauntless Shield with its Trace ability, which is a really genius switch in that sense because it can live close combats that way. So now I have to switch into one of my knockoff users. Tri Attack is not going to do anything because of Mystic Terrain other than damage. Very unfortunate that it gets a crit here, but I am leftovers and I get to knock off its Eviolite, so that's huge because that's kind of free. Either it switches and loses an item or it stays in and loses Eviolite, so I'm very happy with this trade right now at least. So now I can go back into Zamazenta Crown because now it doesn't live close combats anymore once I just kind of, you know, get it going. So it goes into Landorus and gets an attack drop on my health, so my attack is back to neutral. I Ice Fang on the Yachi, so at least it's not like a Sword Stance variant of Landorus, so we don't have to worry about that, and that's a huge chip as well for REGIELEKI. It's very good, very good. I tank an Earthquake for that Ice Fang, but I'm kind of okay with that because I know I outspeed now that it's not Scarf, and I can just threaten with another Ice Fang. Goes into Hydreigon, takes massive damage. I predict it to be Scarf again. So it goes Earth Power into my Fini, but Fini can always just come in here for free pretty much. And I can fire off Moonblast. And I get the special attack drop. Very nice. So now Porygon doesn't do that much damage. And so it teleports into Behem, which is, you know, it is what it is. I go Tangrowth as it sets up Trick Room. So that kind of makes REGIELEKI useless. I still have Ice Shard for Mamoswine and stuff like that, but this is not the worst mon to have in on Trick Room because it is one of my slowest mons, but at the same time it's not fast enough to kill Behem. So it is kind of what it is. I have to do the best that I can with the remaining Trick Room turns because I have a Scarf Latios and stuff like that. My team is very fast, so I have to kind of just try and live these Trick Room turns. So I expected another what's it called, Psychic there, but then it reveals Shadow Ball on the switch, which is very unfortunate. But I'm also like, Scarf Latios is one of the ones I'm willing to give away because once I've tricked away this item and I've gotten the chip on Landorus and I know that's not Scarf, I have other things to deal with it. So I'm kind of okay with giving that away as long as I can come in here and live another hit because that's what I'm most worried about. Giga Drain does not kill, which is very unfortunate, but Trick Room ends that turn, so now I'm faster and I can kill it. Tapu Fini comes in and I'm thinking just like I can switch and gain my region back. I have my own Fini and it can't freeze me with Ice Beam either, and so I'm kind of like, that Fini was incredibly invested in special defense. So I just know that I can kind of threaten a Calm Mindset because I think it's locked into something. I think it's either Scarf or Specs. I don't know if it's Specs, but I think it's like Scarf. I think it's locked into something from the way it's playing. So it copies my Misty Search on a Moonblast. I crit and get the special attack drop, baby. So I can just kind of sit here and just negate its special attack. It can kind of sit there and recover and stuff like that. But I lose very little to just spamming Moonblast because it can't go Hawlucha, can't go Hydreigon, can't go Landorus, maybe go Fini. It has to just kind of sit here and tank these Moonblasts, and by the time it's gotten that many drops, I can just go into whatever. I can go in here and I can Sleep Powder. It Tri-Attacks me, right? Because the terrain ends this turn, so I can Sleep Powder for free. It's not going to stay in, and if it goes Feeny, it can be scared of Giga Drain or even Knockoff. So I Sleep Powder, expecting one of these 3 flying mons to get out. I get the prediction right. Hydreigon is asleep. Goes back to Porygon 2. Gets my regen. I knock off, expecting to stay in with Hydreigon, or maybe going into like Feeny or something. So now I can just Focus Blast because I have that, and I don't miss that. When we kind of stall out some of these recovers, I can go sack this thing now. My Zamazenta is still very useful because it outspeeds everything. Now that Hydreigon is asleep, maybe except for Scarf Feeny coming in on my close combat. I switched to my own Feeny because my Feeny beats their Feeny pretty much. I think I got another drop there. Moonblast, and it's the same old song and dance. So at some point, they kind of have to be like, yeah, they go into their Hydreigon, I think? Yeah, they teleport into their Hydreigon. They go Mamo. And Mamo is really threatening here, because it can actually kill Porygon 2 from this percent. It can kill Feeny from this percent if it's not Scarfed. So I have a lot of agency with this. I Ice Shard, it lives on 1%. It's still asleep, so it doesn't matter. And I Ice Shard again. So it sacks there. It goes top of Feeny. And I expect this to be Scarf, so I go hard Regieleki, knowing I can live 1 hit. And now I go hard back into Mamoswine, predicting Landorus. And I block the Intimidate. That's a crazy double from me. Look at this double, bro. Look at this double. Where's the double? Yes, I kill this. I kill this with Ice Shard. Goes Feeny. I go here, tank ahead on purpose. No, it can't burn me. As long as it's not a crit, I live. I know it's going to go as ground type on my Regieleki, so I go hard Mamoswine. And I block the Intimidate, and now I'm in an amazing position because I can pretty much kill everything except for Feeny, and Regieleki can kill this Feeny. So at this point, he goes Porygon 2, traces my Oblivious. I Ice Shard in case he wants to stay in, because I know it's a 2-hit KO on Porygon. Ice Shard again, and then he goes Hawlucha, which is like, you've lost this battle because my Regieleki is still alive. So I know that you can't, like, my Regieleki counters you, and if you switch out, you don't have Unburden anymore, and Mamoswine wins, right? Mamoswine plus Zamazenta wins. So I can easily let this go down at this point. Easily. Because I go here, and I just Thunderbolt, because if you go Landorus, I can sack off my Zamazenta and go Mamoswine again. But he stays in thinking he's faster. Intimidate comes out with Landorus. I go Zamazenta, sack it off. And it shows U-turn, so it doesn't even sack to me, or it doesn't even make it a sack. So I get free Behemoth Bash. It was not Scarf, probably Specs. I just had to risk it at that point. And then I just Ice Fang for the win. Scarf Regieleki, that man, that's something. So yeah, that's very nice for the Hawlucha. I know as soon as he went Hawlucha and revealed that strat, I just sack something and go Regieleki, and that should be in the bag. Yes, our next battle is versus Wombat Baby, and the only thing I remember from this battle is that I didn't prep that much. I did this very on the whim. Do I remember the entire matchup? No, but it's a Kyurem Black Victini Crocodile. Crocodile is the ground type that we have to worry about in this scenario. We have Life Orb with Protect just for like banded, in case I don't kill, and First Impression Golisopod I have Protect for, and something to like Scout banded Victini, for example. And then I just have, Rapid Spin and Volt Switch Thunderbolt. Because it's not the Electric Immune Thundurus, it's another Thundurus. So I just kind of have to get out Crocodile and Ferrothorn, and we should be good for just nuking things. Maybe Kyurem is a problem too, but I expect that's going to come naturally. Yeah, so Calm Mind, Scald, Ice Beam, and Moonblast. If I Calm Mind up, it should be able to do some damage to Ferrothorn. So I'm not really too worried about not doing damage there. I also have this for the Ferrothorn. It's kind of slow, so I have a lot of defensive investment. If I get an iron defense up, it can kind of battle Crocodile as well, because I can Will-O-Wisp it, and if I can Will-O-Wisp cure him, we're gonna go a long way. So iron defense is kind of there to try and compete a little bit, and try and Will-O-Wisp stuff and get rid of Ferrothorn. Yeah, so I have Heavy Slam here for the Curum. There was also a Comfey that might be coming to this team, so I really wanted some like strong steel move to hit both of them, and then just like Icicle Crash and EQ for these two, or these three rather. It also can help remove Ferrothorn with Superpower. Just trying to go Scarf for some speed control, because it kind of just gets blown away from Banded Victini if I don't go Scarf, so even with Thick Fat. So yeah, Eject Pack Draco Meteor, trying to just nuke something and get out. I have Mystical Fire for Ferrothorn and such, Protect for super effective first impression, stuff like that, and just like a good old same old Zamazenta. Leads Crocodile versus my Latios, which is not the best lead situation for me, and the Intimidate actually, I didn't think about that, but the Intimidate activates my Eject Pack too. So it kind of, in one way, it works out for me, because I get a better lead position, but at the same time I would have really liked that for Draco Meteor. So yeah, he just goes Golisopod. I fire off a Scarf Earthquake. I don't know, like Icicle Crash would have been even worse here, I think, so Earthquake is whatever. I go Hard Top Buffini on the first impression, or for just threatening it out with Moonblast with its ability. Goes Ferrothorn. I just try and Calm Mind a little bit on the switch and try and fire off an Ice Beam to try and chip this thing down. It shows Leech Seed, which is very bad for me, so I try and Calm Mind and just kind of just like, I try and overpower it is what I am doing. But it has Protect Leech Seed, so it doesn't really, and I don't really have a good switch either. Goes Golisopod on my Flare Blitz, which activates its emergency exit. Comes into Crocodile, which is bad for me because I'm minus attack now. I could have tried to Will-O-Wisp there maybe, but I don't know if I live. Maybe I don't know if I live that knockoff. So I kind of have to Will-O-Wisp on the switch maybe. Behemoth Bat does a lot of damage, but I go Regieleki for the T-Wave, and I also for the Prankster T-Wave, and I also know he's going to go Crook, so I can get a free Rapid Spin off, so it doesn't become too much of a problem with the hazards, but I also lose a little bit of HP on the Life Orb. So I go hard Latios on the knockoff, because I don't really have a good switch into Crocodile on this team. Knockoff, maybe this, but if I'm expecting Earthquake, I kind of have to predict either Earthquake or knockoff, and that's a horrible situation for me now that my Feeny is down. So he goes Ferrothorn on my Mist Draco, which is whatever, because I don't get the minus attack drop. Goes Feeny, predicting Mystical Fire, so it's probably a physical Victini. I go Marowak because that's the only like Flare Blitz thing I have. Predicts me and goes U-turn. And then comes here, and I can't live a knockoff, and I don't have a good switch either, so it's I'm kind of like, this Crick is kind of running me, and it can just switch out into Ferrothorn whenever. Should I have superpowered here? Maybe, but it lives as superpower and can swap out. So it's kind of like, whatever I throw at this thing, it can just survive long enough with Protect and Leech Seed. So I don't really have a good way to break it. Get through Thunderous there a little bit. I go here expecting T-Wave again, but it just U-turns, just goes back into Pharaoh. I don't really have a good Ferrothorn answer now that my Marowak is down, and I just superpower predicting it to come in this time, and then it goes Victini on me. It V-creates me and kills me. I don't have, trust me when I say I don't have a weak grade switch in. And I really need Latios for Ferrothorn now with Mystical Fire. I predict it come in this time. I really wish that crit, but it doesn't. But it lets me go. It lets it go either way. So it's kind of whatever. I get through the Ferrothorn with a good prediction this time. I protect to see what it's want to do. Obviously my V-Crate switches are not good. I can let this go now that it has gotten rid of Ferrothorn, but too many obstacles remain, especially that Crocodile. Because if that Crocodile got out, they can just sack here to get a free clean switch. I don't have a V-Crate switch in. Yeah, I expected him to just go Crocodile, but it doesn't really matter, and I lose, and that is my run for the Smogon. Sword and Shield Cup, it kind of got put short a little bit, but I'm especially not proud of how I played versus Down by 6, and Wombat Baby just had a very clean game plan for me. So I do wish I put more effort into the prep there, and I might have still had a shot, but his draft is just very good. Has a good matchup against me, I think, because of my very limited banded v crit switch-ins, and I have to kind of bring Protect for the first impression, and it's very hard to get through Ferrothorn. I got through Ferrothorn very late, and not to talk about this Kyurem has never even hit the field to begin with. So that is going to be this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I really hope you enjoyed my run of the Draft League, and I want to do more Draft League content coming this summer, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a blessed day. This has been your boy Soulblaze, and as always, take care of yourselves, take care of your families, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.